You're telling me that I faked all of this information. I spent hours faking this. I spent hours faking these police reports.
Yeah.
I spent hours faking these pictures. I spent hours faking these recordings so that I could come down here to your neighborhood and jerk you around to buy a hit of crack.
Yeah.
That's what you're telling me. That's what you're telling me.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you see these dates on these accident reports? They're recent.
Yeah.
So you're telling me that every time I come down here, I fake this with more recent police reports.
Yeah. So I can just buy some more drugs. Yeah.
That's what you're telling me.
Yeah. What do you say?
What do they say? What can they say?
And welcome back to another episode of True Stories from a Real Private Eye. Thanks for being here. My name is Vinnie Coppola. I'm your host. With me, as always, is Lynn Lambdin, a real private investigator in Atlanta, Georgia. What do you have for us this week, Lynn?
Well, Vinnie, good afternoon. How are you today?
I'm good, buddy. Good.
Well, Vinnie, I thought we'd talk a little bit about, it's kind of a funny story.
Good. We need a funny story after last week.
Well, I try to make light of situations, especially when I get caught in bad situations. I try to make light of them, just because of the. It's either make light of them or lose your mind,
Absolutely.
So one morning I'm headed out. It's kind of a misty morning, and I've never really driven fancy vehicles when I do my work. I never driven fancy vehicles anyway. I'm just not a fancy vehicle type person. But I was driving a Jeep Grand Cherokee, probably 7-8 years old. And I put a lot of miles on these vehicles, 300,000-400,000 miles. So they kind of, and I never really washed them a lot.
Right.
But, you just the neighborhood you spend a lot of time in this business is not your upscale Buckhead area. So
did James Gregory ever give you crap about the way your cars looked?
Nah.
He washes them every week.
Every week, yeah.
Car wash every week.
Yeah.
And he would always, Vinny, you need a car wash. You need to wash
yeah.
You need to wash that thing.
Yeah, nah, he never did say much to me about it.
Yeah.
I'd have to clean the front seat out when he got in, though.
Of course.
But I spend a lot of time in bad neighborhoods, and I didn't want to get robbed, so I just tried to blend in. So one morning I get up, I'm headed out to a job, and I'm interviewing a car wreck victim. And I've got a contract in hand, and I've got pictures and maps and everything I need for this car accident. And I've got witness statements of where I've interviewed other witnesses. I've got measuring tapes where I've measured intersections and, all this stuff. And so.
Are you serving papers on this case?
No. I'm interviewing a person involved in this car accident.
Okay. And the attorneys hired you to do that?
And the attorneys have hired me to do this.
Okay.
And so I go into this neighborhood in Southwest Atlanta, bad neighborhood, into this apartment complex. Horrible apartment complex. Run down, should have been condemned. And I'm looking for the apartment, and they're not labeled very well. Most of the signs that tell you where the apartment that you're looking for is missing. It's just they're just not kept. It's just not very well kept.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, I hear sirens, and 3 or 4 police cars surround me.
Surround you? Yeah,
surround me, and then not that I'm above that, because I've had it happen to me several times.
Right.
And
just another day in the life of Lynn Lambdin.
Just another day in the office.
Yeah.
And these police officers come out with their guns drawn. And I'm thinking to myself, Lord help. What,
What did I do?
what did I run a stop sign?
Yeah.
you know, so, I'm very cautious, and I put my hands on the steering wheel, and I, you know, I roll my window down, and I'm sitting here, and this police officer takes them 15 minutes to get up to the window because I've got 5 police officers around me, and I'm not moving. I'm sitting still. There's no sudden movements in me, nothing.
Right.
So they get me out of the car, and they search my car. I mean, they've got me spread eagle on the hood, and they've patted me down, and they've got. I carry weapons. I had 2 weapons with me, and
What'd you
they.
have? What'd you have?
I had a 45, Taurus 45, and a 380 pocket gun.
Now when was this around? Which year was this around?
Oh Lord, this was in the probably two somewhere between 2010 and 2015, somewhere in there.
Okay, so if I remember correctly, the laws back then in Georgia were you can have a gun in your car. It was an extension of your house, but
Yeah,
you needed a carry permit to walk around with one, which of course you had.
I had a carry permit.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, and a PI license, and uh, 900 other reasons to have a gun.
Yeah.
I had contracts showing the apartment that I was looking for. I had a email from the attorney with instructions on what the attorney was looking for, giving me instructions. I had business cards with my name on it, with the name of my company on it. I had letterhead. I had everything in the world to show that I was legitimate.
Right.
Well, as they were taking everything out of my car, searching my car, they're telling me that somebody called in and told them that I fit the description of a murder suspect.
Hmm. Hmm.
And it had to happen really quick because I entered the apartment complex, and I wasn't in the apartment complex 10 minutes looking for this apartment, and the police are all over me.
Yeah. Southwest Georgia police response for suspected murderer was pretty damn good this time.
Well, in Atlanta, in Southwest Atlanta, the response time on a car accident at this time was 3 hours.
Right.
It take them 2.5 to 2 to 3 hours to get to you if you're in a car accident. And there's shootings in Atlanta that you call in if there's a shooting, and it takes the police 2 hours to get there.
Yeah.
But here I am. It takes 5 police officers less than 10 minutes to respond, and
Yeah.
have me spread eagle on the car,
Yeah.
and them telling me, shoving my face into the car, telling me to shut up.
Yeah.
And I'm saying, what in the hell are you doing? What's wrong? And then
Yeah.
I'm trying, and when they're telling me that I fit the description of a murder suspect, I'm going, what do you mean? How do you know I fit the description? And
Yeah.
finally, after they've got everything torn out of my car, there was nothing left in my car. Every piece of paper, everything, taking everything out of the glove box, everything. They said, well, we had an anonymous call. Someone called in and said that you fit the description of a murder suspect. I said, so you just take anybody's word for it? I said, you just take anybody's word for it? And they said, well, no, not typically, but you fit the description. And it wasn't like I was dressed in rags. I mean, I had on.
Or like a mafia gangster or anything.
Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah.
And my car wasn't, it wasn't a run down car or anything. It was a nice running car.
Yeah.
And it was a presentable car. And here I am. And And then when they get done, they just uncuff me and say, "There's your car and there's your shit over there. Go get it." And that's how they left me.
Right. All your shit all over the floor.
All over the ground and everything. Now it wasn't raining, but it was a damp, foggy, cold February, early March day. And that's how they left me. That's because I fit the description in a predominantly urban neighborhood. And I showed them, Vinnie. I said, "Look," I said, "here's the contract. Here's the paperwork from the law firm. Here's the engagement letter from the law firm. Here's everything. What makes you think that I fit the description of a murder suspect?" I said, what do I drive the same car? No. We received a phone call, so we had to follow up on it.
All of you? All 5 units?
So basically, you just needed somebody to harass this morning.
That's exactly right.
So basically, I just happened to fit the description of your harassing person.
Yeah.
So basically, I fit the description of someone that the caller didn't want in their neighborhood.
Yeah.
That's what this was.
Yeah.
But somebody didn't want me in their neighborhood.
Yeah.
They thought that I was an undercover police officer. Or they thought that I was here to buy drugs or something, and they didn't want me in their neighborhood.
I bet the first one's accurate. They thought you were an undercover police officer. They were doing some wrong shit. Like, well, let's get this guy out of here.
Yeah.
Or there was somebody in their house who had to get out of there in a hurry.
Yeah.
You gotta make this guy go away. This guy's an undercover cop.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I fit the description. I mean, I've been accused of being an undercover cop more than once. Sometimes I have a hard time getting people to talk to me. "Nah, you're an undercover cop." "No, dude, I'm not."
Yeah.
Just trying to find out about this car accident.
Yeah. Did you ever find your target? You ever find who?
Oh yeah. Once that they got, well, no, she found me.
Yeah.
Yeah, she was the whole crowd that was standing around watching. She was in the crowd.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, by the time they were done, they were a whole crowd of people.
Yeah.
I mean, they were probably 20, 30, they were probably 15, 20 people standing around watching by the time we were done.
Right.
Yeah, I was there for an hour. I mean, they had me there for an hour.
This episode is brought to you by Simple Funding LLC. For all of your pre-settlement funding needs, contact Simple Funding LLC to receive your money promptly. They're a customer-centric legal funding company that provides exceptional funding solutions at affordable rates. Simple Funding covers a diverse range of cases, including car accidents, slip and falls, worker compensation, medical malpractice, wrongful death, and more. They recognize that life goes on and you need to access your funds immediately, which is why they offer clients a swift and efficient process with minimal documentation requirements. For more information, visit simplefundingllc.com or contact them directly at 678-855-6232.
And now that's not the first time. And the similar thing in the same neighborhood. I'm driving through the neighborhood, cop pulls me over, and he says, this was years later or years earlier. It's happened to me 2 or 3 times. And a cop pulls me over and he says, "What are you doing in the neighborhood?" "Well, I have a job here, work for this law firm, and our client lives down the neighborhood." "Yeah, right. You're here buying drugs." No, I'm not. Here's the contract. Here's the address. See, the address it's just right down the street here. Here's the phone number to my client. Why don't you call my client and ask them if I was just at their house?
Yeah.
Yeah, I bet they sell drugs. No, dude, no. I'm working. I promise you, I'm working.
Yeah.
Look, here's the contract. Look, I record my conversations when I interview these people so I can go back and type up the report. Listen, take my tape recorder and listen to it. You'll hear me asking them about this, whatever the situation is.
Yeah.
They'll go, "Yeah, whatever." And they'll search my car. I've had my car searched. I've had my car searched 3 times, including that one. 3 times where they've taken everything out of my car.
Really?
And where I just said, "Now you're here to buy drugs." What makes you think I'm here to buy drugs? Well, you fit the profile. What do you mean I fit the profile? Well, you a young white guy in the black neighborhood. You fit the profile. How about I fit the profile that I'm here to help somebody with their car accident? What's wrong with that profile?
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Well, and here's the aggravating part about it. I appreciate them trying to protect their neighborhood.
Yes.
That I can appreciate that. But the part that bothers me is that when I produce the evidence that I'm there to help somebody,
They still don't buy it.
here's what you're telling me, officer. I've got 5 contracts in my hand here of 5 different people in 5 different parts of Georgia that I'm helping today. You're telling me that I faked all of this information. I spent hours faking this. I spent hours faking these police reports.
Yeah.
I spent hours faking these pictures. I spent hours faking these recordings so that I could come down here to your neighborhood and jerk you around to buy a hit of crack.
Yeah.
That's what you're telling me. That's what you're telling me.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you see these dates on these accident reports? They're recent.
Yeah.
So you're telling me that every time I come down here, I fake this with more recent police reports.
Yeah. So I can just buy some more drugs. Yeah.
That's what you're telling me.
Yeah. What do you say?
What do they say? What can they say?
Yeah. Right. Yeah. Yeah.
They never. I mean, I have had them look at me and go, "Yeah, okay, it makes sense," but
Yeah.
but twice I've had them not believe me and search. I hate Chihuahuas.
Yeah. Do you really?
They bark at their own shadows.
Yeah. Supposedly they're very smart dogs.
Yeah. Santana, get over here. Enough. Santana, enough interruption. For no reason. No reason. She just flips out and starts barking.
Wanted attention. Yeah.
So, I don't know. What was we saying?
Something about you had one believe you. But
yeah. So out of all the times that I have been stopped, I've had 2 or 3 believe me, but I have been twice. They have taken everything out of my car and searched my whole car, and they'll just leave me sitting there on the side of the road and go, "Well, you put it back. We're done." I mean, it's ridiculous. It really is. It's ridiculous. And the morning that they took everything out of my car because I fit the profile that somebody had called in, that really made me mad. And I'll tell you why. Because it didn't fit the profile of anybody they had. It was just somebody in the neighborhood called in and said that I fit the description of a profile that they called in.
Yeah.
Of a murder suspect.
Yeah, yeah. They probably didn't even ask any questions. They said,
no.
"Okay, we're on it."
Yeah. We're on it. Yeah.
I'm with you, Lynn. Part of me appreciates the fact that they want to protect their neighborhood, but the other side of that is, they don't have to be dicks.
Exactly.
They don't have to be. They don't have to toss your car, throw it onto the street, and then all right, pick up your shit. They don't have to be like that.
No. Especially when I can produce contracts, and if they would have just given me the opportunity, I could have produced probably 10 different law firms' business cards. And I don't mean here's a business card from this law firm, here's business cards. I'm talking about box of 100 business cards, because these law firms that I work for will give me business cards, boxes of business cards. Look, here's a business card, here's a box of business card, here's a box of business card, here, and and completed jobs. Look, here's this job, here's this job, here's this job, here's this job. They would have been enough evidence in my passenger seat in my briefcase that they would have said, "Oh, you obviously work." Oh, and by the way, here's my PI card. Here's my business card. Here's my business license.
Here's my gun permit.
Here's all the evidence to show that I'm legitimate.
Yeah.
And they don't even want to look at that. They just want to harass you.
They want to harass you. Yeah, they're tired of sitting in a parking lot somewhere waiting on a call, or just driving around aimlessly. Hey, when somebody, when one of these cops started accusing you of being purchasing drugs in the neighborhood, and you fit the profile of someone who purchases drugs in one of these neighborhoods, did you ever say, "Drug test me, give me a drug test right now, I'm clean"? You ever say that?
No, I mean, I make the comment that I say, look, I don't do drugs, man. Do I look like I'm a drug addict?
Yeah.
Do I mean, I'm slightly overweight. Do I look? I got all my teeth?
Yeah.
Do I look like I'm smoking crack?
Yeah.
And they don't. They don't care. They just call you a smart ass. Tell you to shut up.
Yeah.
They don't want to hear you.
I've done it. I've done it a couple of times. One time I was driving down the road, and like a song that I liked was on, and I had the windows rolled down, and I was singing the song, and I might have crossed the yellow line a little bit. Here come the lights.
Yeah.
He pulls me over, and he's like, "Son, have you been drinking?" I'm like, "No, sir." He goes, "I know you've been drinking, son. I know it." He goes, "I saw you cross that double line. I saw you swerving. You were swerving all over the road." I go, "Sir, I was playing the radio loud, and I was kind of not really paying as much attention as I should." I said, "If I was speeding, I accept that, blah, blah, blah." He goes, "Son, I know that you were drinking." Because I'll swear on my career. I said, "Well, then give me an alcohol test." I said, "I'll take it right now." And one time the guy pulled it out and gave it to me. Another time he went, "All right, where are you going?" I went, I'm just a mile away." He goes, "All right, drive safe." But yeah, I mean, now if I was drunk, I would have never had the balls to do that.
Yeah.
but and I don't think anybody would. But I wasn't. I was just acting like a jerk, singing in the car, not paying attention.
Well, let me ask you a question. So when you cross the yellow line, that automatically means you're drinking?
I guess. I mean, that's what he said. But he claimed I was swerving a lot, and I was all over the road, quote unquote. And
well, I'm going to say this. He needs to follow me every morning when I eat my sausage and biscuit.
Yeah,
because I have a hard time keeping it between the lines.
Yep.
I have to turn my lane assist off because it drives me crazy.
Right. Yeah.
Because beep 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 beep.
Yeah.
I mean, I can't keep it in the center of the lane when I'm eating my sausage and egg biscuit every morning.
Right. I'm surprised you haven't been pulled over for DUI.
I'm not joking with you. I mean, it's funny, but I'm not joking with you.
I know you're not.
I mean, just because you don't keep it between the lines, especially when I'm trying to talk on the phone and eat my sausage and egg biscuit and drink my tea. I mean, it's just hard to keep it between the lines.
Yeah. You can't do all that. Well,
yeah. So, I mean, not keeping it between the lines because it don't mean you're obviously drunk. I mean,
right.
A lot of these police officers, they go to the academy and they teach them something, and then they automatically think that anytime that somebody does that means that's the same way every time.
Right.
And that's just not the way it is.
No.
I'll tell you a funny story. I was out in Snellville, Georgia.
Okay.
And it was right after they passed the hands-free law in Georgia. And I was driving down the road and had the phone up to my ear. Cop pulls me over. And he said, "Why was you on the phone?" I said, "Because my wife called." And I said, "When the Queen calls, I answer it."
Yeah.
And And he said, okay, I get it. He said, I'll be right back. He goes back to the car, comes back, and he writes me a ticket.
Ugh.
And he puts on the ticket, talking to wife on the phone.
Yeah.
I brought it home and I gave it to my wife.
And she paid it. No.
No, I went.
Yeah.
I went to court and they dropped it because if you buy a hands free at the time, because there's a new law,
Yeah.
if you buy a hands free device,
Yeah.
they'll drop the ticket.
Yeah.
So I bought a hands free device. I already had one. Why I wasn't using it, I don't know. But I bought a hands free device and to have a backup and because they do wear out. So I bought another one and they dropped the ticket.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah. So I kept the ticket because he wrote on there talking to wife.
Yeah. 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 Nice. Nice.
I just kind of thought that was funny that he put it right on the ticket.
Yeah. Yeah. That is funny. Yeah. I remember getting a ticket for not wearing my seatbelt once. Have you ever gotten one of those?
Um,
And this was like early 2000s. When did they pass that law in Georgia?
oh, long time ago.
Yeah. It was like the 90s or something, right?
Yep.
And this guy was still he was like, I'm gonna get somebody on this. He got me.
Yeah. Well, I did, no, I can't remember. I was driving, when I was working at the Punchline, and Doug said, Lynn, go pick up the comedian from the hotel. And the comedian was Bill Engvall.
Oh boy.
So I go pick up Bill Engvall, and we're headed back to the Punchline. And we got pulled over by Sandy Springs. And I'd already got a ticket earlier that day for something. I don't remember what it was for.
Oh,
And
no.
the ticket was stuck in the seat between me and Bill Engvall. I just had it stuck in there in the seat. And I can't even remember what it was for something stupid. And police officer walks up to the car, and he said, sir, do you know you had a tail light out?
Oh, shit.
I had no idea.
Yeah.
Hell, I'd just been pulled over earlier in the day, and the police officer didn't mention it.
Right.
And I said, no.
It was daytime. You didn't have your
I said, no, I didn't know I had a tail light out.
Yeah.
And he said, well, I'm going to have to write you a ticket for it. And Bill Engvall pulls the ticket out from between the seat, and he says, why don't you see if you can write us one for something we don't have? And sticks it back in the seat. And I said, why don't you shut up before you get killed?
Yeah.
And I didn't mean by the officer.
I know. But did the officer find that funny at all?
Nah, not really.
Of
He
course.
didn't have much of a sense of humor.
Of course not.
Yeah. So he wrote me another ticket for no tail light.
2 tickets in one day.
Yeah. I don't even remember what the first one was for. I can't even remember. It was for something similar.
Wasn't speeding? It wasn't speeding?
No, it wasn't speeding. It was
following too close?
no. It was something operational, like it wasn't no tail light, but it was something of the nature. I don't remember what it was for, but
Yeah.
I don't even remember. But it was something like that, and after I thought about it, it was pretty funny what Bill done. But when you're sitting there and a cop breathing down your throat, and it just wasn't real funny.
Yeah, I bet. Yeah.
It just, him writing another ticket and me already with one, and Bill Bill was pretty funny about it, but it wasn't funny at the time.
Yeah.
But that wasn't funny at all. But it still wasn't funny, having my car searched and me trying to explain to the officer, who I was and what I was doing there.
Yeah.
They knew that I didn't fit the suspect of a murderer.
No, but I bet you they just wanted, listen, they wanted a little action. They had nothing to do for an hour, 2 hours. Here, let's go on this call. And
Well, Vinny, in that neighborhood, that's not true. They always got something to do.
but there's got to be something more important than a supposed murder sighting, a murderer sighting.
Well, listen, if I was going to murder somebody and try to hide, why would I go to a neighborhood where I stick out like a sore thumb?
Right. Yeah.
I mean,
Exactly.
I would at least go somewhere where I blend in.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Yeah. Be a
I
little
mean,
more covert about it.
exactly.
Yeah.
So they just wanted somebody to pick on, and I don't think it has anything to do with them. I think it just has to do with them abusing their power. I think
For
it could
sure.
have been anybody. I think they just had to show somebody that they had power.
Yep. 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 Yep.
You know.
I believe that about a lot of cops. I believe that they really dig their power and they abuse it.
Yeah. Now, no, don't get me wrong. I know that we talked, like last week. We talked about bad cops. We've talked about bad cops in the past, but don't get me wrong. There is a lot of good cops out there.
Oh, 100%.
I,
100%.
I mean,
Yes.
you take people like Ken Krause.
Yes.
I mean, he was one of the best. Did his job to a T. Did everything by the book. Check,
Yeah.
double check.
Yeah.
He wouldn't do anything that wasn't by the book.
No, listen,
And,
I'm a police supporter. Back the blue all the way,
oh, me
all the way.
too. Me too.
But I do not doubt, nor would I be stupid enough to make an argument against the fact that there are bad apples out there. There are guys wearing the badge in uniform and in plain clothes that abuse that power.
Well, that brings me to a good point. I spoke to one of my police officer buddies, who's a police officer right here in this area, right here close to Roswell.
Yeah.
He's not a Roswell police officer, but close to the Roswell jurisdiction.
Yeah.
And I asked him, I said, so and so, whatever your name is. I'm not going to give his name because I didn't ask him if I could.
Okay.
I said, let's say that you pull up on an ambulance that's got a dead 7-year-old boy in it, and there's a 20-year-old something sitting in an F-150 that hit him, and 7-8 months later, you get a talk screen back that has active cocaine in his system. And when I said active cocaine, he knew exactly what I meant. And his words was, "You mean cocaine that is still processing and he's still getting high?"
Yeah.
I said, "Yes." And I said fentanyl in his system. He said, "So he had cocaine and fentanyl?"
Yeah.
I said, "Yes." He didn't ask me what amounts. I said, "What do you write him up with?" He said, "I write him up with a felony DUI, aggravated assault on a child, and a felony vehicular homicide."
Yeah. Heck yeah.
And he said, and then his next words is, "Why are you working a case where this is a true scenario?"
Yeah.
Because he knows he knows what I do for a living.
Yeah.
And I said, well, sort of. I said, we had a lady on our podcast whose kid died. And I said, yes, I am working the PI side of it for a law firm I work with. I am working the PI side of it. And I said, we are trying to get the lady justice. And he goes, why? What has he been charged with? I said, a misdemeanor DUI case. He said, well, in my department, he said that wouldn't fly. He said we're not. He said we'd be reprimanded for writing them up for that in our department.
Yeah. For those of you new to the podcast, if this is the first episode you're listening to, Lynn is referring to last week's podcast where we talked to Shantae Sharp about her son and how he was killed in front of his own home by a 20-year-old man who was high on cocaine and fentanyl. So I'll put the link to that episode down in the comments in case you weren't here last week.
So, and he was only charged with a misdemeanor DUI, and they will not bring any other charges against him
Yeah.
for vehicular homicide, and he
Very,
was,
very sad case.
yeah,
Very sad.
he was so high that his brain couldn't process a child in front of him or any other person or animal in front of him. He was
Yeah.
so high
Yeah.
because he had conflicting drugs in front of him. And that's another thing that we went on to discuss was that um, the drugs that he was on were conflicting drugs.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
And I did a little research about what cocaine and fentanyl will do inside your body when used together. And
yeah,
they'll make you very, very loopy, very, very,
erratic.
yeah, very erratic, very unaware of what's going on because your body is racing and slowing down, racing and slowing down because of the two chemicals inside it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so there could have been, so the child may have been in the street and he wouldn't have knew it,
Yeah.
or he may have actually ran out of the road and not know it.
Yeah.
So the police officer interviewed him and chose to believe his story, even though he was high, and he may not even have knew what really happened
Yeah.
because of the conflicting drugs that he had in his system,
Yeah.
which
Well,
is a horrible thing.
yeah.
And
Well,
this mother has to live with losing her 7-year-old kid with no justice.
yeah, or no justice and no answers on why this guy got off with just a misdemeanor. You know, I looked at the police report, Lynn, and on the police report it says fatality.
Yeah,
It says fatality, and they're saying, "Oh, we don't have enough evidence to." The officer on scene signed it
yeah,
and wrote fatality. So there's no other explanation in my mind except that somebody knows somebody and pulled some strings. That's it. That's the
yeah,
only explanation.
yep.
Yeah.
That's the only explanation.
Yeah.
There's no other explanation.
No.
There's not one other explanation.
No.
So hopefully the mother, hopefully we get enough eyes on our podcast and enough embarrassment to the city that somebody, or to the county and somebody
Gets the ball rolling.
somebody steps up and does the right thing.
Yeah.
Somebody says, "Look, you're not going to embarrass us like that. Charge
Yeah.
this man, and
Yeah.
let's let a jury decide."
If this story gets nationwide attention, I guarantee you something will happen, and that's what we're trying to do.
I hope so. I
Yeah.
hope so, because I just couldn't imagine losing a 7. I couldn't imagine losing a child, much less a 7-year-old child, to something like this,
No.
and then them getting spitting in your face. I mean, basically just spitting in your face. I mean, that's basically
100%.
what's going on.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, just horrible,
Horrible.
a horrible situation.
Yeah. Well, this was a good one, Lynn. We thank you so much for being here with us. Let me remind you, please, to subscribe if you haven't yet. It really helps our visibility. And leave a little comment or a review. That also really helps us out. We're trying to get the word out here and help people. If you like stand-up comedy and goofy videos, check out my website. You can find all my links to all my social media. It's vinnie.com, VINNIE.com. And if you need someone served, someone found, someone surveilled, if you need private eye services, Lynn Lambdin is the best, ladies and gentlemen. 30 years in Atlanta, solving cases, helping attorneys solve cases. Tell me your website, Lynn.
LWIAS.com. That is LWIAS.com. You can find me there anytime.
And if you need services, if you need Lynn's services, and you mentioned that you heard about Lynn on the podcast, you will tell them what they'll get, Lynn.
We'll give you a discount.
We'll give you a discount.
We'll find a discount somewhere.
Yeah. And thank you, Simple Funding, for sponsoring this episode. We'll see you guys next week.